Hi everybody, very welcome to Mentour and yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. Today is a very somber day as we bid farewell to one of the largest short-haul airlines in Europe, Flybe. Flybe has just announced that they're going into administration. Why has this happened and why did it happen right now and what's going to happen? Stay tuned.
Wind 31016, everyone right, going on right.
Start land 31 right. Delta 260, produced.
So, this morning, the 5th of March 2020, we were given the very sad information from the headquarters of Flybe that they were going into administration. Now, what that means is that it's going into something that's very close to bankruptcy. It means that all of the aircraft are now staying on the ground. There will be no more flying by Flybe. The stocks have stopped trading, and basically all of its employees are now, maybe not exactly today, but very soon, out of a job. So what has led up to this? Well, Flybe has been, to a large extent, a very successful airline. It started back in 1979 as Jersey International Airways, and it flew a lot of different types during its existence, including the 737-300, I believe, the short 360, the Embraer 195, and now the Embraer 175, and the backbone of the operation has been the Dash Q400. So they started, as kind of the name initiated, in Jersey, but it has been largely operated for the last few years out of its base in Exeter, and it also has bases in Birmingham and Manchester. And the way that the route network structure has looked has been a lot of the domestic flights within the UK. So they haven't concentrated on flying into and out of the major hubs like Heathrow and Stansted, but rather the slightly smaller airports and the really small airports up in Scotland, out on the Channel Island and in Northern Ireland. Okay. So during the last few years, they have been struggling. Okay, it has largely to do with the route structure, the fact that if you're flying not from the major hubs where there's continuously a lot of traffic, but from the smaller airports, then you will be very, very sensitive to the kind of seasonality of the airline business, and also to major disruptions, like for example now what we're seeing in the coronavirus. But what has really been the source of their struggles during the last few years has been the Brexit process. With all of the uncertainty that come with that, meant that the pound has been dropping like a stone. And of course, all of the incomes, if you are a domestic airline within the UK, is going to come in pounds, but a lot of your outgoings, like for example your fuel costs, is going to be in dollars. So this means that even though you're operating the same kind of amount of passengers, well then your earnings are dropping quite a bit. So that has been a huge problem. Flybe has been operating as an independent airline. Basically, all the time up until last year, where a consortium called Connect Airways bought them. Connect Airways is to a large extent owned by Virgin Atlantic, and Virgin Atlantic had a vision for Flybe where Flybe would become a feeder airline into the hubs of Virgin Atlantic, where then the passengers could fly out on the long-haul routes with Virgin Atlantic. The idea, I think, was to rename them into Virgin Connect or something like that, but they never really had the time to make that change, because during the autumn of 2019 it became more and more apparent that they didn't have the economy to continue to run the airline, and just before Christmas they actually went in and asked the UK government to help them out. Now, why would the UK government help them out, you might ask? Well, the reason for that is quite simple. Flybe has been doing a huge service to the smaller regions of the United Kingdom by operating these slightly less profitable routes, but equally important for local businesses. They are today actually flying about 40% of all of the domestic routes within the UK. That's a huge number. So this means that as Flybe stops operation, 40% of all of the internal flights within the UK will cease to exist until someone will pick it up. And the question is, who is now going to pick it up? Because there are some smaller airlines within the UK who can try, but none of them as big as Flybe. And the bigger operators, they are likely not going to be interested in operating these kind of routes. They don't have the fleet to do it, and not the interest. So there was a huge interest from the UK government to help Flybe out. And what they were planning to do was to give a £100 million bridging loan to them. That would kind of bring them through this downturn, which always happens over the winter, and into the summer, where they would hopefully become profitable again. And another thing that they were discussing, which was highly criticized, was that they would get a temporary exception from the air passenger duty, as in the APD, which is a form of tax that the UK was levying. It's an environmental tax that they were levying on domestic flights within the UK. And of course, when the UK government came in and suggested that, well, then all of the other airlines that's operating inside of the UK asked, well, if they're getting that exception, why don't we get that exception? That seems a bit unfair. And on top of that, you had environmental groups as well criticizing this, because it would send the wrong signals, basically, that the first thing that the government would kind of take away would be the environmental tax. So this was not very popular in the wider airline world. But what happened yesterday, as far as we know from what I've been able to read, is that the UK government basically decided not to give this bridging loan, which made it impossible for Flybe to continue to operate. So when that decision was made, then the leadership of Flybe went out and said that because of a commercial decision, we are going to stop operation. We go into to administration, and then we will see what comes from there. All right. Most likely, this is going to lead to Flybe disappearing. Some of its assets is going to be taken into other airlines, slots and so on. It's probably going to be taken by other airlines. But the sad truth is that there's going to be a lot of passengers whose travel is going to be disrupted. And I should say at this point that if you have planned travel with Flybe, today, do not go to the airport. They are not going to fly. Contact them or contact the airport to see what kind of information you can get. If you're flying with an airline who has operating a code share with Flybe, so part of your travel is supposed to be with them, you have to contact that airline to see if there's going to be any disruption to your travel. But like I was saying, the likely outcome of this, unfortunately, is going to be that a lot of pilots, cabin crew, ground handlers, operational assistants, people operating, planning, flight planning and so on, is going to lose their jobs, which is hugely sad. It's similar to what happened when Thomas Cook went under last year. And the only thing that I can say is that from the bottom of my heart, I really hope that you guys who are affected by this, that you'll be able to find a new job as quickly as possible. We're all in the industry hoping that this downturn that came with the coronavirus, which is what made the situation completely unbearable for Flybe, that's going to be over soon, and that as we get into the summer, that confidence is going to return to the passengers, that the virus will be under control, that the airline business is going to start to operate on full speed again. And I really believe that within 6 to 12 months, we are going to be back up on top again to where we were just a few years back. But that's just my own opinion. Okay, I really hope that you guys will be able to sort this out, and that you don't will have to move your family away, far away from where you want to be. So that's all I had, guys. Once again, I wish the best of luck to anyone who was affected by this, be it as a passenger, but especially for the crews that were involved. And I hope that as this business tend to be able to do, that we can come together and help you guys out. That the government of the UK will do their best to help out, that all of the other airlines that are still recruiting cabin crew and pilots will do what they can to absorb you into their airlines, and that the outcome will be as good as possible for everyone out there. If you want to continue to discuss this or have questions about what happens when, to the crews, then I will probably not be able to answer those questions directly, but I'm guessing that there's a lot of people that's working for Flybe that's watching this video. So go into the comment section here, put your questions in, and I'm sure that there will be people there who will be able to answer you. And if you want to, I will be opening up the Mentour Aviation app for you. I'll create a new forum called called Flybe or something like that, and all of you, if you're working for them, you can go in there and you can discuss it. If you are out there and you have questions about what's happening, you can go in there and discuss it as well. And I'm hoping that we can come together and help each other, as we always tend to do in this community. Have as good of a day as possible, guys out there, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Guys, I really hope that you liked that. If you want more content like that, more aviation content, well then check this out. I hope that you have subscribed to the channel and that you've highlighted the little notification bell. See you inside of the Mentour Aviation app and have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye bye.